Mysteries and Mimosas. My name is Max, and I'm here with my favorite wife, Aria.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, I said favorite.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. I don't have any other ones, but
Right.
if I did, you'd still be my favorite.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a reminder, in Season 2, we decided to release our regular episodes every Thursday instead of Wednesdays, but we continue to bring you Mystery Monday episodes every single Monday.
Yeah, and just a reminder, our Mystery Monday episodes are about lesser known cases. There's usually not a ton of information, but we just like to spotlight those to get them out there, to get them some exposure and hopefully generate some tips.
That's right. And if you have any cases you would like us to cover, please shoot us a message on Instagram at Mysteries and Mimosas Podcast. Visit us on Facebook or our website, mysteriesandmimosas.net. You can also email us, mysteriesandmimosas@gmail.com. Or if you're interested, you can send Aria a snail mail letter via the U.S. Postal Service. No?
No,
You don't think so? Okay.
I don't think so.
You don't think anybody's interested in doing that?
Nobody wants to send a letter in the mail.
Okay. Well, that's
But there's
fair.
lots of ways to contact us.
You're right. There are a lot of ways to contact us, and we just told everybody every way to contact us. Except
Yeah.
for Discord. Still holding on hope.
Nobody wants
does
to join your
Discord?
Discord.
That's fair. Today's case is from New Orleans, Louisiana, which is a city at the top of our bucket list to visit. There's a lot of history and information out there about New Orleans, but we want to give you three fun facts about this city. 3 fun facts, which you may not know.
Yeah, so Bourbon Street is not actually named after the drink. It's named after the royal French family that was ruling at the time New Orleans was founded, which was the House of Bourbon.
I wonder if the drink bourbon is named after the family bourbon
Oh,
or
maybe.
the street bourbon. Could be. You never know.
Oh, maybe it's
Probably not.
opposite what everyone thinks. Could be.
Okay, what else you got?
New Orleans is also the most haunted city in America.
And for that reason, I'm going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be an interesting city to explore, I think.
Yeah, I bet they do ghost tours and stuff,
I'm
don't
sure, yeah. And then lastly, New Orleans was the first city in America to host an opera in 1796.
they? Boring. Just kidding.
Wow.
I have no interest in singing opera, but we do see ballet every year. A ballet performance, the Nutcracker. Try to catch 2.
Yeah.
If you've never been to the ballet, I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's a fun family tradition of ours that we do every year.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd like it. The first time you bought ballet tickets, you said, "Hey, I got tickets to the Nutcracker." I'm like, "Oh, yay." And deep down, I'm like, goodness, why? Why do I have to get dragged to this?
You did not want to go.
But then, after I experienced it the first time, I look forward to it every year.
Exactly. So maybe you would feel the same way about the opera. You've never
Could be.
been to the opera, maybe.
That's true. Yeah, so I take it back. It's not boring. It's semi-intriguing. So today's case is about 19-year-old Ashley Marie Eiffert. At the time of Ashley's disappearance, she was 7 months pregnant. Ashley was an energetic teen who loved playing softball, dancing, and marching in the Mardi Gras parades. Did I say that wrong?
You said Mardi Gras.
Yeah, it's Mardi Gras. Typically, our Mystery Monday cases highlight lesser-known cases with minimal information available, but today's case is a little bit different. When it comes to Ashley's case, there's a lot of information available, but some of the information is a little bit conflicting, a little bit confusing. But today we're going to do our very best to try to give you a basic understanding of what happened to Ashley.
Yeah, I think you'll have a lot of questions maybe after this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I do. And we'll kind of talk about that. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting case.
Yeah, so at the time of her disappearance, Ashley was pregnant with her boyfriend, Joseph Hill's baby. By all accounts, Ashley and Joe were in somewhat of a tumultuous relationship. It's unclear whether or not Joe was happy about Ashley's pregnancy, but based on the information available, it doesn't seem like Joe and Ashley got along very well. On January 9th of 2003, Ashley drove her 1992 silver Ford Mustang to the home of Nicole Johnson to pick up baby clothes and baby furniture after meeting Nicole at a recent prenatal visit. Apparently, during this prenatal visit, Nicole told Ashley she recently lost her baby and wanted to donate the clothes and furniture, and of course, Ashley wanted to go pick them up. Who wouldn't, right?
Right.
Especially 19 years old.
Yeah.
Probably don't have a lot of money, maybe relying on parents at that time. You're just getting out on your own. You probably would be happy to take any help you can get.
I'm sure, yeah.
So here's where the story gets very bizarre. Ashley's mom, her name is Yvonne Eiffert, was the person who discovered this information. Apparently, when nobody heard from Ashley, her parents grew worried and began to search for her. And as part of their search, they began driving around the city searching for clues that might lead them to Ashley or any information that might help them find her. They stumbled across Ashley's car.
Wow, that's kind of crazy. They just happen to be driving around the city and find her car.
Yeah, that's what I think. How lucky is that you're just cruising around looking for your daughter and you happen upon her car?
Yeah, that's a pretty big coincidence.
Ashley's parents found her car in the 4500 block of Demet Lucen Street, parked in front of a house, 9 days after Ashley went missing.
Okay, so they haven't heard from her in 9 days, but they haven't reported her to the police or anything. They've just been out looking for her.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is there's no information to out there to know when that missing person report was made, but we do know that they were looking for her for 9 days.
Okay.
And it was out of character for Ashley to be out of contact with her parents, especially being 7 months pregnant. So
Right.
anyway, when Ashley's mom knocked on the door to ask why Ashley's car was parked in front of their house, she met Nicole and learned Ashley was there to pick up Nicole's donations.
Okay. So it sounds like Ashley hadn't told anyone she was going here to pick up this furniture and baby clothes or anything.
Yeah, not as far as I could tell. So Nicole told Yvonne Ashley was inside her house to pick up the donations, but left Nicole's house soon after placing a phone call, during which time Ashley got into an argument, presumably with Joe Hill. Nicole said she last saw Ashley walking towards a nearby Shell gas station after Ashley's car wouldn't start. Additionally, Nicole told Yvonne that she thought it was weird that Ashley's car was still parked in front of her house, so she called for a tow truck, but the tow truck never arrived. Yeah.
There's no confirmation, though, as to whether she ever called a tow truck.
Not as far as I can tell. But we do know from that point forward, Ashley was never seen or heard from again. According to Ashley's family, police failed to properly investigate Ashley's disappearance, and now, 21 years later, police still have no answers. According to Yvonne, by the time police responded to the Shell station to review the security surveillance footage, it had already been recorded over and was no longer available.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and you know, when you conduct investigations, it's I think that's the most difficult thing for new detectives to learn, right? Is caseload management. Because this, you know, whoever this detective is, this isn't their only case.
Of course.
So caseload management, prioritizing tasks in investigations and trying to understand what needs to be done now versus what can wait and be done later. I think security footage, getting warrants, etc., when, you know, information is stored electronically is always a top priority, because we do know if you have a home surveillance system, if you're recording for, you know, a period of time, eventually that DVR just re-records over old footage. And that's what happened there.
So, but we don't know all the information either. They didn't, I don't know for sure when they reported her missing, but they found her car 9 days later. So maybe they hadn't even, I guess they wouldn't have had that information for the police to go to the Shell station prior to 9 days later.
Possibly.
So I don't know how long that footage lasts before it's recorded over. So I don't know that it specifically was because the police just didn't follow up on the lead in time, or by the time they got the information and went to the Shell station, it had already been recorded over because of the lapse of time, you know,
Right.
not having that information.
So keep in mind, this is 2003. It's not like they most likely did not have an electronic DVR or NVR. They probably just had a VCR with tapes that they cycled, you know, every 7 days.
Right.
I used to work in a gas station when I was in college as a kid, and that's what we'd have to do. We'd take, you know, Sunday from last week's tape and put it back in on Sunday, and it re-records over whatever was there. So 9 days, if they only keep, you know, 7 days worth of tapes, 9 days, it's already gone by the time they even know about the Shell station.
Right.
So I don't know if, you know, I know that the family thinks this is a failure on their part, and it could be. Who knows when they went, but if they went immediately, there's a good chance that it's probably not there anymore anyway.
Right. By the time they had this information.
Correct. So apparently, Yvonne reviewed Ashley's phone records and discovered several calls to unknown numbers, or at least numbers that Yvonne didn't recognize. But we don't know if Ashley ever made any calls to Joe. And to this day, police have never been able to identify Nicole, which I think is just bizarre.
See, that's where this case just, it seems so weird. Like, they know where she lives. Her mom went to the house. So how can they not find her now? Did she just up and move away like immediately and went in the wind? I mean, it's very possible Nicole's not her real name. That, but they know where she lives. So
Right, and I saw a news article video of one of the detectives on the case, and he said in that article, and I don't know what all he said, but at least the edited portion of that article, he says, well, there's no 4500 block of this street to exist in New Orleans. So, that's, to me, I can imagine that maybe the mom would have got it wrong, but also that mom could just take the detectives there and say, this is where I found the car. That's the door that I knocked on.
right.
That's where Nicole was when I talked to her and got this information that I'm now giving you.
Yeah. See, that's where it's so bizarre. And then on top of that, I don't know about the car. I mean, it eventually got moved. I don't know if they had keys and moved it themselves or if it really wouldn't start, so they had to get a tow and have it towed somewhere. There's a record of that. I mean, that car being moved from there at some point. Like,
Sure, yeah.
I'm
Well,
so confused.
see, and that's, I saw another article that said the parents had it towed, but that doesn't make sense either, because if it's a missing person investigation and there's a 7-month pregnant, 19-year-old, kid, so to speak, missing, don't you think that the police would want to do it? Because they also say, one of the other articles says that the car was processed for fingerprints. So that tells me that, detectives were the people who towed the car and had it processed. And
Right.
they didn't find anything.
At some point, again, maybe the parents got there and they just had it towed immediately before they even called the police. I mean, I can't imagine that they would have done that, but say that's what happened. Even if that were the case, there has to be a record of the tow truck company that went to that location and towed the vehicle. So they had to have given that truck company the address information, and they were able to find it.
I would think so.
So I don't know. It's just super confusing to me.
Right. Yeah, it is confusing. Well, the information is confusing, and we don't have the obvious, records of the investigation, so we don't know what steps they took. But on that news article, the detective's saying, if we could only identify this Nicole, that's a piece of the puzzle that we're missing. Mm-hmm. So we do know that Nicole has never been identified. Is this a real person? Did she give her real name to Yvonne when Yvonne talked to her?
Right.
I don't know. The other thing that police could have done is followed up at the doctor's office to say, hey, can you tell us when Ashley had a doctor's appointment for her prenatal, visit? And who else was visiting that day, and get a list of the patients. I know that they would protect information with HIPAA, but I think that it would be at least a good investigative lead to try to find out, hey, did somebody, there's a suspect in this case that has information about a missing person. They can write a warrant for those records just to find out who was there without getting any medically protected information released to them. There's steps that police can take, and maybe they did. Maybe they went to the doctor's office and there was no record of a person named Nicole Johnson ever visiting.
It could be too.
Immediately, I kind of think when I was reading this case, you hear, it's not very often, but you do hear some cases where women and or couples or bad people, I guess, it could be men or women, kidnap pregnant women to cut their fetus out. And if Nicole really did lose a baby, I don't know. I'm not a medical expert. I'm not, expert in psychology, but if there's some kind of postpartum depression where she feels like she needs to take someone else's baby, that's a high possibility as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, you do hear about these stories where it actually ends up being just like this, where somebody makes an ad or something on Craigslist or on social media and says, hey, look, I have all this extra baby clothes and furniture and toys. And, a young mom sees that and says, oh, that would be really helpful for me, and responds. And then they end up getting lured there. And then the baby is cut from them. And either, typically the mom dies and the baby might live, might not. But you've heard of those cases. It does happen.
Yeah, it has happened. And, the other thing that I was thinking too, which I find is interesting, according to Yvonne, she looked through Ashley's phone records and saw some unknown numbers. Well, I would think if you're going to, meet this Nicole person to get donations, you probably would call them, right?
Right.
So probably one of those unknown numbers is, there's a high likelihood that might lead you to a suspect, Nicole, whoever.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of work to be done on this case, I think.
And I mean, there's a lot of information that we don't know either, right? That police haven't released, possibly. So maybe they followed up with those numbers and nothing came from it. I don't know. But yeah, you would think there would be some kind of a connection there. And then Nicole claims that Ashley called her boyfriend, Joe Hill. I would be curious to know if there were any outgoing calls to Joe.
Right.
That's another part of this that's interesting to me, is because she's 7 months pregnant with his child. And from what, the research that you did, the police can't find him either.
Right.
To interview him. Wouldn't you be curious to know? I mean, even if you weren't thrilled about the pregnancy, weren't really looking forward to having a baby, wouldn't you be concerned enough to say, hey, did anybody ever find my child or Ashley? Like, he's never followed up with anyone and police can't find him to interview him.
Right.
That's also very suspicious.
Yeah, as far as the information we have in the news, he's never been interviewed or questioned. I mean, maybe he was and it just wasn't reported. But yeah, that's a really good point. Where is he and how concerned is he that his child, presumably his child, is now, potentially gone as well?
Right. Yeah, it just doesn't add up. I mean, did this Nicole and Joe set this up? Who knows?
Oh yeah, that would be super easy. If Joe was not, happy with the pregnancy. If he's not happy with the pregnancy, then he could easily have Nicole, or, maybe he's dating this person who, quote unquote, Nicole, if that's her real name. He could easily say, yeah, hey, Ashley has a prenatal appointment at 2:00 on Tuesday, or whatever, and then they just set it up that way, because of course a young mom, with not a lot of resources probably, is going to want donations.
Right.
Why would she not? So I would think Ashley wouldn't really be suspicious of that.
Yeah, I just have so many questions. I would be really curious to know, for one, what her cell phone records showed, who she had been calling. And two, I would like to know if when they found her car, I don't know if the keys were still there or not, but did the car start? Was it mechanically able to start? Because according to Nicole, Ashley walked over to this Shell station because her car wouldn't start. So, is there truth to that? Or was the car fine when when her parents found it?
Right. And the other curious thing to me is she says, well, I did call for a tow, but the tow never showed up. Well, I'd like to know, when did you call for that tow? Was it like the next day? Was it, right before Yvonne showed up and met you? And the other thing that doesn't make sense is, I think what person would call a tow company and say, hey, there's this car here, I need you to come get it? Because the tow company is going to charge you for that.
Right.
Most of the time, people just call a non-emergency dispatch number and say, hey, this car is still here. I'd like it to move. Can you please send an officer? And then the, patrol shows up, they tag it. They give you, a certain amount of time depending on the state, and you have so much time to remove the car before they tow it. And then it's the owner's expense to get that car out of the lot.
Right, because, and that's on private property too. From all accounts, it seems like she's parked on a public street in front of someone's house. So even at that point, what authority, do they have to tow it? I don't know. My question is,
that's a really good point. Sorry to interrupt, but maybe that's why the tow truck driver never came, because it's on public property.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about that till right now. But the other thing that's really weird to me is, if Nicole is legit and her story is accurate, if I had someone come to my house to provide them with baby clothes and furniture, things that they need for their upcoming delivery in a couple of months, and I see that she's gotten into this argument, it doesn't seem like she has anybody to come, help her out with her car that won't start. Do you not step in at some point and say, hey, is there anything I can do? to help you out. Instead, she watches her walk over to the Shell station, and then she's never seen or heard from again. Presumably, she has Ashley's contact information to set up this exchange of baby clothes, but she never tries to call her or reach out and say, hey, your car's still parked in front of my house 9 days later. Are you coming to pick it up? Is everything okay? She never was concerned about that. Instead, she picks up the phone and calls a tow truck. That doesn't seem... I mean, maybe she did call Ashley. We don't know, but it doesn't sound like she did.
Well, yeah, and that brings up another point. I mean, like you said, if Nicole's on the up and up and everything she is saying is true, the other theory could be that Ashley did walk over to the Shell station because her car wasn't working and hoping to meet Joe, and he never either showed up and took her and did something with her, or he never showed up and she was, taken by somebody else. Who knows?
Right, I mean, it's all possible.
It's just so bizarre that Ashley, all the circumstances about it, and then Ashley is just last seen, getting donations and leaving her family with zero answers.
Yeah.
A lot of questions because I mean, I don't want to come onto this never wanted to come onto this podcast and armchair quarterback police investigations. And I have to preface this by saying we don't know everything that they did. But on the surface, based on what we have in the media and the information available out there, I think there's a lot of work that they didn't do that they could have done, that they still could do. And I think as a cold case, this has the potential to be solved.
Yeah, I mean, I think the potential is there for sure. I think my biggest question here for this whole... I mean, I have a lot of questions, but I think the biggest one is... How could they not get a hold of this Nicole? Even if that wasn't her real name, I get that. But why couldn't they just ask Ashley's mom, hey, this address that you've told us doesn't exist. Maybe you wrote it down wrong. Can you just take one of our investigators there and show us which house it was?
Exactly.
And then have that conversation. I mean, I guess the only way that wouldn't work is if Nicole...
Up and vanished
that quickly? I don't know. That seems very weird to me.
Right. But you would still think, though, if she up and vanished quickly, if that's what happened, she would have been renting. So there'd be a tenant history with the landlord. You'd be able to contact the property owner and say, hey, who lives here? Who stays here? Who's been here?
Yeah.
And you just start doing your investigation that way. I think that if you're picking this up as a cold case, those things are going to be extremely difficult unless they were documented appropriately in the original case file. If they're missing, I don't know if you'll ever get it back.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I mean, now it's been 21 years later. I assume her mom is still living. Did you see that in your research?
I didn't see it.
I mean, because I would think that I don't know. I don't even know if it would be helpful now to just be like, hey, could you take us to that house now still? I can't wrap my mind around it. I'm just going to be honest. I don't understand where the disconnect was. Why were they never brought to that house? That house was presumably the last place Ashley ever was. Nicole said she went into the home. So, she was there, and that's the last place she was known to be or anyone saw her, and yet you've never been there to, one, question Nicole or this woman, whatever her name might be, and to have a look around the house, see if she'll let you in to look. I mean, because if something happened, there's presumably going to be evidence there.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. So I think that's, looking at this from an investigative standpoint, I would focus my investigation there and then move outward. That'd be the center of my investigation. Let's find the location of the quote unquote crime, if there is one, and you start from there.
Right.
And you work your way out, and you start, doing interviews, and then you go, you look at the gas station, you send detectives there to get the surveillance camera, all those things. There's so much work that could be done. It just kind of seems like if it wasn't done on the front end, it might be impossible to do now. Right.
Especially with the gas station. So say, by the time they had this information that she may have gone to that Shell gas station, just say by the time that happened, the video had already been recorded over. So there was nothing they could have possibly done just because they didn't have the information at the time. But they could have spoken to employees and said, hey, who was working on this day around this time? and just said, hey, did you see someone that matches this description? I mean, I'm sure, I don't know how busy of a gas station it was, but maybe a young 7-month pregnant woman who's walking over because her car's not working would jog the memory of someone that was working and said, hey, yes, she did come in here. She said her car wouldn't start. She was waiting for a ride.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I agree with you because, I mean, if you think about it, you're a gas station clerk, the police come in and they say, hey, did you see, a week ago or 9 days ago, did you see a man in a black jacket and blue jeans? Well, that's impossible. Those people come in all the time, right?
Right.
But if you ask, hey, did you see a young pregnant woman talking about her car, needing help, that's going to stand out to you. So, and maybe they did. Maybe they did do those interviews and just nothing was, ever. I mean, I would guess that they probably did. If they went over there and they found out that the surveillance was recorded over, they probably did do their due diligence to do interviews.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of information that we just don't know just because it's not out there. It would be really great to be able to talk to that original detective and just see what footwork was actually done versus what what's in the news media, because I know not everything is out there.
Yeah.
But these are just all questions that came to me when I heard this.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of questions and unfortunately, it would be great if there was some kind of DNA evidence somewhere, but there's nothing. She just vanished. They processed the car, they found nothing in the car, which tells me that she never made it back to her car.
Right, okay, that's another question that I have. I wonder, and I think maybe you did, in your research, did you find anything that said what was in that car? And the reason I ask is because Nicole claimed that Ashley had gone into the house, gotten the donations, and when she was getting ready to leave, she went to start her car, and it wouldn't start.
Right.
So presumably then she would have had all those donations in her car with her because she was getting ready to leave. Were those donations in her car? That would kind of back up Nicole's story.
Right. As far as I could tell, there was nothing in there. Her phone was missing. Just very little personal belongings are in the car, and it's just as if she left and never came back.
Very strange. I wonder if the car was secured and locked and all of that too. Cause
right.
I don't know. If those items were in a car, it would lend a little bit more to Nicole's story that's why she had came, that, this is really what happened. Is it possible that when Ashley didn't come back, Nicole went out and took the stuff back into her house? Maybe. We don't know any of that information. It's just,
yeah.
I mean, and if something did happen in that house, even all these years later, it's potentially you could still find DNA if something did happen in that house.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I don't know. Just this case left me with way more questions than answers. It bugs me. I really want to know.
It is a good Mystery Monday episode because there's a lot of mystery behind it. If you don't mind, can you just give us a description and who can call? And hey, Nicole, if you hear this and you're listening, police would obviously love to talk to you. So if this rings a bell to you and you happen to be listening to this podcast, why don't you call the New Orleans Police Department?
Yeah. So, as we said, Ashley was 19 years old and 7 months pregnant at the time of her disappearance. Ashley is described as a white female, 4 feet 11 inches tall. Her normal weight was 100 to 115 pounds. She had black hair and brown eyes. Ashley has her name tattooed in script lettering on the inside of her ankle, a small sun or sunflower tattooed above her breast, and a pierced tongue and ears. Ashley's nickname is Shorty, and was last known to be wearing a white shirt, light blue sweatpants, white Nike sneakers with blue trim, a silver barbell in her tongue, and freestyle sunglasses with violet-colored frames. If you have any information about the disappearance of Ashley Marie Eiffert, please contact the New Orleans Police Department at 504-921-2222 or the Texas Department of Public Safety at 1-800-346-3243. And do you know why the Texas Department of Public Safety is assisting in this investigation?
Nope.
It didn't ever say. It just said they were.
Yeah, I never found any information on why they are.
That's weird. I mean, I know they're like right next to each other, but still. Is there some reason they think that she was taken into Texas or something?
I have no idea. Yeah, it's very curious. I mean, and that's another piece that leads me to believe that there's more to this than investigators are releasing. And again, thank you for listening. Please visit us on our website, mysteriesandmimosas.net. Follow us on Instagram at Mysteries and Mimosas Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, the big Discord. Still holding on hope for Discord. I actually stay up at night. I look at my phone for probably a good 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how tired I am, just staring at my Discord server.
Waiting for a friend.
Waiting for a friend. And I have none, but that's okay. Don't forget, if you are interested if you haven't, check out our Instagram and you'll see the awesome glasses that we drink our mimosas out of on Thursdays. Those are made to you by Dragon Glassware, and if you are interested in buying one, you can use the promo code Mysteries and Mimosas Podcast on their website for a generous 10% discount off your entire order. And with that, I got nothing else. What do you got?
Not a thing.
I'm just excited to be back.
Me too.
Yeah, so check us out, and if you're either not interested or too lazy to go look at all those cool social media places or visit me in Discord, do us a favor, at least hit the like and subscribe button. Tell your friends about us. Tell your family about us. And that's about all I got today.
All right. Well, until Thursday. Cheers.
Cheers.